So I'm on a church crawl today in the East Riding of Yorkshire, just south of Bridlington, starting off at church number 1 where I am right now. This is All Saints Church at Barmston, just south of Bridlington, not far from Carnaby, which is also a really nice medieval church. But All Saints Church here is open daily, 10 to 3, or it seems to be, that's what it says outside. It's a Saturday morning today, it's about 10:30. Its absolute highlight, I have to say, is the 15th century tomb effigy to William de Montcoeur, 1446 I believe is the rough date. Originally it was here in the chancel, although this has probably been restored as well, but at one point it stood somewhere in the chancel, and in 2002 it was moved to just by the south door. A really good move that, because it was really hard to see all of the sculpture on all of its 4 faces when it was in its position here in the chancel. So now it's been moved, you can see it in absolutely great detail. So I'd love to show you that, and then we'll have a look around the rest of the church and we'll move on to some other churches.
Just inside the south door is the alabaster table tomb of William de Montcoeur, who died in 1446. For most of the Middle Ages, the de Montcoeur family were lords of the manor of Barmston, but William died without heirs and was the last of his line. The table tomb is made of Derbyshire alabaster. The effigy is wearing armour, but William himself was not a knight, and the effigy originally had a double S collar, which has since been removed. Originally the tomb was in the centre of the chancel, moved in 1873 to the north corner of the chancel, where it was so close to the walls that the 2 sides could not be seen, and extensive damage was caused to the monument owing to the damp conditions it was kept in. It was restored and moved to its present position in 2002 and can now be seen on all sides.
This is the church of St James de Compostella at Lissett, and it is a rather neglected building. It's covered in pebble dash and it looks to be a mix of sandstone and local field rubble for its general fabric. And it has a 12th century south door which has been dreadfully whitewashed, but there's ivy growing all over. It really is a rather sad state of affairs here at Lissett, but a cute sort of like Essex looking church as well. It's closed unfortunately. Would be very interesting to see what it's like inside given its exterior state, but yeah, an interesting little church nonetheless, bit of a sad one, but we'll move on pretty quickly. Pevsner's guide says it was restored mostly in 1876, and that the small carved stone above the minor south door is once considered to be a muzzled bear's head from a Saxon hogback, and I know that there's a similar one at Bainton, which isn't too far away, but otherwise it doesn't have much to say about this church. So, having said that Skipsea Church was actually closed, got the key from the post office. So, a good opportunity to see inside now. So Skipsea's parish church was really great to see. It was rebuilt in the 1860s by an architect, Fowler from Louth. Really what I loved the most about Skipsea's parish church was the exterior fabric of the chancel, which it says was rebuilt in the 19th century, but it had some of that herringbone sort of coastal rubble, what they call in the Pevsner's Guide as field cobble, but more likely just brought down from the beach and on the coast. Some really great stone there gave it a good colour. But was the way that herringbone isn't actually indicative of the 11th century or medieval period. It's actually a way of rebuilding in the 19th century. But it was really great. In between the mortar that was holding the big cobbles together were these tiny bits of clay brick. and it gave a really distinct character to the sort of elevation of the chancel, so that was really great. And then we went down and got the key, so yeah, that was really good. And you'll see now that I'm at a new church. This is St Leonard's at Beeford, heading back towards Driffield away from Skipsea. This church is locked, but it is one of the bigger and most interesting structurally of all the churches that I'll see today. So it's definitely got enough to entertain me from the outside alone. And one of the most expansive, great big churchyards, which is really fascinating. All different variety of stones around here. So it's going to be a good to explore, so yeah, I'll show you some clips, and then I think next we're going to Foston-on-the-Wolds. I think we're going there, okay. Well, a great shame actually that St Leonard's is locked, because reading in the Pevsner it says, yeah, perpendicular church, bit of earlier work inside, but largely rebuilt. But then also it has an early 14th century effigy of a priest, his head framed by an ogee canopy, and a 15th century brass to Thomas Tongue, rector, 1472. A very familiar date to me, as that is the East Window date, or a year after, for Holy Trinity Gudrun Gate in York. Yeah, but a figure of a mass investments and coat holding a book. Sounds great. Also did like what it says in here about the top of the West Tower. I'll just move back into the porch where it's not as windy to tell you more about that. But the Pevsner's Guide says that the top of the West Tower, with its 8 pinnacles and various decoration, is not dissimilar to Holy Trinity Hull, and I thought home on Spalding Moor, which I'll have to check when I get back. But thank you, Pevsner. Always give me something to read, even when the churches are locked. No information of a key holder as well, either. But never mind, let's move on to the next church. So for Foston-on-the-Wolds, no one would call it on the Wolds, for they are some 3 miles away. It lies in the Upper Hull Valley. So this is St Andrew's Church, of stone and brick, but the nave and chancel are pebble dashed. Well, it looks like that's changed since Pevsner, or Neve even at least, visited the church, because only the chancel is pebble dashed. That is just, looks like a lime rendering, which gives it quite a nice bit of character, although less so with this almost Mediterranean looking finish to the south porch. But it is a medieval church, so it says Norman nave and chancel, small round-headed windows, priest doorway in the chancel, round-headed, so all of character of that time. Chancel has later 13th century windows added in. Looks like inside there's some nice medieval bits of ecclesiastical furniture, as you'd expect. Sedilia, other bits and bobs. Walking around the east end of the church, the tracery on the east window is extraordinary. Looks like there's been some real structural movement to that perpendicular east window over the years. Subsequently, it's been given this rather distorted appearance. And there looks to be a tiny fragment of late medieval glass in there, possibly a figure's head. Hard to tell from this side, but nice late medieval angels as label stops around the hood mould. You can't really argue and complain about the appearance of these buildings when they, even if they are covered in pebble dash. There is something here which I am quite drawn to. It's a bit of a rarity. Well, for me anyway, I find it quite an attractive appearance. You know, not best for the building by any means, but something I'm not used to seeing, so in my opinion, yeah, sort of, I don't know, strangely attractive character to these places. So in the Pevsners it does say that the interior rendering of the chancel is really extraordinary and quite hideous, and I made a special point to actually look through the chancel windows. And my goodness, it really is. It's like it's been rendered in this whitewash with this sort of scallop shell fanned pattern. Looks really bizarre, but the entire interior has been done in it from head to top. And even the sedilia is covered in it. It's very strange. So that was worth a look anyway. Even if it is closed, it was worth seeing that weird job. Just as I was leaving Skerne, actually, one of the local farmers came by walking his 2 spaniels in the churchyard, and he did confirm that this church is never open outside of service times, and I imagine a church like this does not have many services. Whether it's part of one of the local benefices, I'm not sure. It probably is, but a really great shame. But yeah, you probably can get a key holder. I mean, you can't even get in the porch to see any key holder information. But there is work. There is clear evidence of work having been done in the churchyard. I mean, there's clearly a tool shed over there and some work to trees on the north side. So stuff going on here, but no access arrangements. And you can't even see in those windows because they're glazed to see the monuments that Pevsner, or Neve anyway, David Neve does talk about with quite in great excitement. Yeah. Out of all the churches that are closed today, St Leonard's at Skerne is perhaps the most disappointing, because the entry in the Pevsner's Guide is extremely exciting. It says of the monuments that they will give you a fright as they face you when you enter, and they're grotesquely tooled. It also says that the interior is architecturally of a great surprise, given the drabness of the exterior, which is, apart from the west tower of ashlar limestone, it's entirely rendered in a very, very drab colour, so it's dead on there. But yeah, extremely disappointing that this is closed. And in such a rural village, down a really long path to get to the church. But you never know what's going on here, so can't judge too much. But yeah, a pleasant church from the outside, but would have loved to have seen inside with those monuments by the sounds of them. But yeah, okay, so that's been today's walk. Now it's back to Driffield. And thanks for joining me. So I'll see you soon for another video.